Hello and welcome to another episode of Inside the Huddle. Today is Sunday, February 1st. This is episode 94 of the Inside the Huddle podcast. Thank you as always for joining us. Make sure to please like and subscribe here on YouTube. Another week, another episode as we get set for Super Bowl week this week out in San Francisco, Santa Clara. Wherever you want to label this game being played. They're advertising it as San Francisco, but the stadium's actually in Santa Clara, which is a little bit ways away from San Francisco. Either way, Super Bowl 60, Seahawks, Patriots coming up 1 week from today. But before then, we've got a bye week. No football on this weekend for the first time in a very long time, which has been rough. Not getting up this Sunday here, getting up this morning and having to wait a week to see the Super Bowl, watch one more game before we officially close the chapter on the 2025-2026 season is rough. But we do have a lot to talk about because for 30 of the 32 teams, everybody else is in the offseason other than Seattle and New England. And we've got a lot of news, a lot of coaching changes, some GM news to discuss today in the podcast. So looking forward to diving into it. DiMari, how's it going? 1 week from today, it'll be Super Bowl Sunday. Bye week here, and then we get set for the off season.
Yeah, I'm doing good. You never realize how much you actually miss those terrible overseas 9:30 games until you wake up and you don't have any football like today. So kind of sucks the season's coming to an end starting. Well, season will be ending next Sunday, of course, with the Super Bowl, but it's been a great year so far. And, we said this last week to start off. I'm going to say it again. More news this week. And I feel like it's going to be a very interesting offseason. Like you said, 30 to 32 teams are already in the offseason. A lot of teams have already found head coaches. We're still waiting on a few teams to kind of figure out their direction in that. And football might not be on our TV as far as games on the field, but hey, we got draft stuff coming up, which we'll get a lot into during the offseason. But for now, let's enjoy what we got this week during the bye week, Super Bowl next week. But we got a lot of news for today, so let's get into it.
Yeah, definitely. Lots of coaching cycle changes. I believe there has been 10 coaching moves, or 10, I should say, head coaching vacancies this offseason so far. It could be a bit off, but I believe that's where we've been at. Obviously, some of them starting to get filled out. Buffalo, which we'll dive into. Cleveland, we already knew. Miami's gotten filled out. You, of course, get Baltimore getting filled out. You've got the Titans getting filled out, Atlanta. So tons of moves. Giants already happening. Couple moves still as we wait. And some teams continue to wait with the Clint Kubiak stuff after the Super Bowl. So we'll see how everything plays out there. I know the Raiders continue to be in the mix there for him. But, yeah, I would take a Marcus Mariota to a rematch right now at 9:30 in the morning, as crazy as that might sound. But yeah, it's football is one of those things where you don't really realize how much you miss it or appreciate it until it's not on the TV for 7 months or whatever now until we get to August, or 6 months, whatever it is, until we get to August with preseason, and even then preseason it gets old after a little bit. Yeah. So I wish you could just press a button and get to September and get the ball rolling in 2026. But we'll start today with the Bills and their coaching decision. We talked about it last week of them moving on from Sean McDermott, 9 seasons with the team. We all know the success that the Bills had with Sean McDermott and the playoff runs that they had with him in this McDermott, Josh Allen era. 9 years with them, 7 playoff appearance, or I should say 8 playoff appearances in those 9 years. Divisional round loss this year, conference title loss last year, back-to-back divisional round losses, or I should say 3 straight, and then title game loss, wild card loss, missed the playoffs in Josh Allen's rookie year, and then ended that long playoff drought of 18 years with Tyrod in 2017. So McDermott was there for a long time. It felt like every single year, especially over the last couple years, his seat was getting hotter and hotter as Allen gets older and older, and they continue to fall short year in and year out, that maybe they would make a change, and they do, and they end up adjusting and moving forward with Joe Brady. So I guess what are just your overall thoughts on the Joe Brady hire? I personally don't love it. And I know you could look at some of the candidates that they were interviewing and not love a lot of them. And it's also the Bills have put themselves in a situation where, and I get this aspect of it, where it's going to be tough to love this coaching hire because of the success that Sean McDermott had. There's a good chance that Joe Brady doesn't do nearly what Sean McDermott did. There's a good chance Joe Brady doesn't even last for 9 seasons like Sean McDermott did. So what are your thoughts on this move?
Yeah, I don't love it either. And you look at his resume, and his resume screams potentially a great candidate for. I mean, we talked about it off air, but his time at LSU in 2019 when they took the college by storm, obviously winning the Natty with Burrow, Jefferson, and Chase, and just from 23 when he took over from Ken Dorsey. I mean, they have had a top 10 offense in points and yards since he's taken over for Ken Dorsey. Obviously in 23, number one rushing offense this season. So you look at all the accolades and you're like, this is a great fit. A guy that's comfortable with Josh Allen, a guy that's been in the system, a guy that is the system, if we're being honest. Like, we know Buffalo, that team runs through the offense of success and efficiency. So you look at it and you say, we think this is great. You take that next step up. But personally, I don't like it because I'm right on board with you. You look at McDermott and what he's done during his time there. One, how can somebody step into those shoes? And two, I'm really not a fan. I'm starting to realize this over the last few weeks. I'm really not a fan of the whole coordinator with no head coaching experience kind of taking over as a head coach. And it works in some cases. I mean, look at Schottenheimer over in Dallas. It's worked out. Yeah, they didn't make the playoffs, up and down season, but you can tell just the on-field product and just some of the off-field stuff. They love them. They play for them. They play hard for them. They're going to try hard for them. In this case, though, I mean, this isn't a team that it's rebuilding. This isn't a team that you're expecting, hey, let's bring a guy in, let's rebuild a little bit, make some roster moves, maybe try to win a few games and build going from there. This is Super Bowl or bust expectations. Mm-hmm. I just don't think he has it, not in his first year. And I understand he's learned a lot under McDermott with his time there. But for someone that you think is going to step in as a head coach and be the next step guy to get you to a Super Bowl, I don't think Joe Brady is the guy, and I could be wrong, though.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't love it either. And a part of the reason I just don't love the move is Brandon Beane and Terry Pagula went out a couple days ago, or about a week ago now, and had their end of season press conference after firing Sean McDermott. And Pagula essentially destroyed the coaching staff. The owner of the team essentially said they were the reason for drafting Keon Coleman, because that was a big knock on Brandon Beane. And there's a lot of Bills fans that aren't happy that this wasn't a full blow up where they fire McDermott and Beane. I think that should have been the case. I don't like half measures. You know that a lot about me. I don't like when teams either fire the GM, keep the coach, or fire the coach, keep the GM, whatever a combination it is. I think if you're going to fire one, you should just fire the other and start fresh. A little bit different in this scenario because Joe Brady's been in the organization. It's not like he's a brand new voice working with Brandon Beane, who's never worked with before. They've been in the organization together for a long time. So a little bit different there. But the point being is this just looks like a backtrack from Buffalo's standpoint. You have the owner of the team, who I get, Brandon Beane, he's got more of a say when it comes to the coach. Now, Pagula's obviously got to sign off on it. But you've got the owner of a team last week talking about the coaching staff and how they didn't have good talent evaluation and throwing Keon Coleman under the bus and saying that was a coaching staff move. McDermott and his staff, the offensive staff specifically, wanted him. So basically what you did was threw all the coaches under the bus, McDermott and his assistants. And then a couple days later, you hire one of his assistants. That to me, I just don't love that. Like, that to me just doesn't make sense. How are you one day going to crush the coaching staff and a couple days later say, here, one of McDermott's assistants, take the job? I just think Buffalo needed a fresh voice. And that's a lot of times what happens when you get to these playoff runs, and you continue to fall short. You just need to start fresh and reset and get a new voice in there. And that's why, personally, I like Brian Daboll, because he's not necessarily a fresh voice in the standpoint of he's never worked with the Bills. He's been in Buffalo before, right? He was the OC with Allen in the beginning there. Of course, we know he takes the Giants job, and now he's in Tennessee with Cam Ward, which I do actually think is an intriguing combination. what happens with the rest of that roster is a big question because they've got a lot of holes. But point being, I actually personally thought they should go after Dable because he had previous head coaching experience. Him and Josh Allen are really, really close. I'm more high on Dable than a lot of people. I think more of Dable's shortcomings in New York were more of a product of the bad roster Joe Shane put together for him, choosing Daniel Jones over Saquon Barkley, the laundry list of things that he did. Dable wanted Dart. Joe Shane did not, right? There's a lot of things that Dable did there that I thought were actually good, and there were some things that, look, he obviously didn't do well, and there was also some things that I think were out of his control and Joe Shane moves. Point being is I like Dable, the fact that he's already been a coach, to kind of step in and take this team to the next step. And you give Dable a good quarterback, they can have success. Brady, it's just essentially what you're saying is like Joe Brady now has the pressure on him. And this is another thing too, the first time head coach. You're firing McDermott to go win a Super Bowl. You said that, right? Super Bowl expectations. Joe Brady now essentially in the next year or two has got to get to a Super Bowl or else this is a complete failure. That's a lot of pressure. Would you agree for a first timer who, let's be honest, the resume is not that great. I mean, he was with Sam Darnold in Carolina for 2 years. It didn't work out. He then came to Buffalo. He's had success now in Buffalo, and they've been able to run more of a balanced offense than what they were running with Ken Dorsey, where it was basically Josh Allen chucked the ball to Stephon Diggs 15 times every game, and there really was no run game. Now James Cook was the NFL rushing leader, all that stuff, but I don't know. You get that feeling as well?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. And, again, my big thing of not liking the coordinator to head coach to repeat it is just because you're a great coordinator does not necessarily mean you are going to pan out as a great head coach. And I'm sorry to bring up two Jets that come to mind. You look at Robert Saleh, amazing defensive coordinator. Every single time he's with the organization, he's not that great of a head coach. He obviously gets another start, which we'll probably talk about a little later. Aaron Glenn, for instance, you've witnessed that this year, where just because you have that voice as a coordinator, when you do take that next step as a head coach, guys look at you differently. And that's just what it's going to be. Some in the negative, some in the positive. But I just don't think he has that voice necessarily to be the leader that they need in that locker room, especially for a group of guys that all they've done. I mean, you look at the draft classes, and we can talk about how bad the draft classes may have been as far as talent. They're used to winning. And a lot of that is because of Josh Allen. So that team is used to winning. So if you have, guys that's been there forever from the start of it, and you bring in a new voice, and he doesn't have necessarily that winning culture, which you're not going to start to notice until maybe, week 6, week 7, those type of things. That's how you lose the team. That's how you lose the locker room. And not saying that's necessarily the direction it's going to go into, but a guy like Dable, who's been in this type of predicament, like you've mentioned, head coaching experience, a fiery guy, that's exactly what they needed.
Yeah, 100%. And this it's a boring, in my opinion, it's a boring hire.
Yeah.
And I want to make this clear. There's not many hires that the Bills could have made, unless if it was a John Harbaugh or a Mike Tomlin or somebody like that, where it's a proven Super Bowl winning coach where for a fact that they can do potentially a better job than Sean McDermott in terms of what their resume is. It was going to be tough to find a head coach that was going to match Sean McDermott's resume and essentially match, he's automatically going to be able to win this team a Super Bowl. Now, you have to take that risk, and sometimes that risks works, I should say. Excuse me, word salad there. But it just feels boring. Like, you just fired the head coach who brought in this guy as the offensive coordinator. Now you're promoting the offensive coordinator. Just bring in fresh blood. He hasn't been able to get it done with this offense the last couple of years, and I'm not trying to blame it on Brady, but they had 5 turnovers on offense against Denver. Like, the offense was not Josh Allen's best game, and I'm not trying to blame that all on Joe Brady, but just the outside wise, like they could have did better. They could have just brought in a fresh voice. Joe Brady just feels like a boring half measure hire where it's promote the OC, hope it works out, And look, the rest of the candidates, again, my choice would have been Brady. Brian Dable rather. They also interviewed Phillip Rivers, which I was not in favor of that. I think Joe Brady's a better choice than Phillip Rivers. At least Brady's got some coaching experience. For asking Phillip Rivers to go from high school to coaching an NFL team with Super Bowl expectations, that's a couple steps, I think, too far. Lou Anarumo, Grant Udinski from the Jags, Anthony Weaver, Anthony Lynn. So some of the names were uninspiring. Could they have waited and see what happens with Clint Kubiak in Seattle after the Super Bowl? That certainly would have been something to keep an eye on, but timeline-wise, it doesn't quite add up. I just don't think the Bills with this hire did the absolute best to capitalize on the Josh Allen timeline. And look, Josh Allen had a lot of say in this. I do want to emphasize that. He had a huge say in this. He was sitting in all the interviews, all that stuff. He was probably one of the final decision makers too, right? Your MVP quarterback, he's going to have say. But again, we're talking about Josh Allen. He's going to be 30 years old. I'm not saying he's going to be washed by next season, but he's 30 years old. He's been in the league now for this is going to be I believe his 9th year in the NFL. We still haven't gone to a Super Bowl. Sam Darnold's going to a Super Bowl before him. You could have done better, in my opinion. And I don't know, man. Look at this roster. Is Brady all of a sudden now going to be able to get the most out of this team? And this goes to the Brandon Beane element. Who's Josh Allen throwing to next season? Because these receivers are terrible. Now, it does bring up an interesting point. Justin Jefferson and Joe Brady, which we talked about a little bit off air, have a connection between LSU and LSU in 2019. Of course, that undefeated run with Joe Burrow. Do you see that becoming a possibility? Jefferson had some high praise for Brady on a recent podcast appearance, happy that he got the job in Buffalo. We now hear what's going on in Minnesota. Is this something where maybe a trade goes down and Joe Brady and the Bills get Josh Allen a elite number 1 wide receiver?
I mean, Luka Doncic was traded from the Mavs to the Lakers at 1:00 in the morning, so there's nothing impossible, and I can see it. I mean, we've talked about.
Hey, Nico Harrison's available in Minnesota.
That's true. I don't think they want that.
They need a GM.
I don't think they want that, or he might sell the team and they might relocate to Hawaii if that's the case. I think it's possible. I mean, Justin Jefferson obviously growing unhappy. He's been unhappy. His prime is getting wasted, if we're being honest. It was actually kind of sad to see how much of a non-factor he kind of was this year in Minnesota, and it was rough. This is a top 3 receiver year in and year out in the league, and just to see him completely be Jalen Reagor, last year was very uncomfortable. A lot of that has to do with the quarterback play, a lot of different factors. But I mean, for Joe Brady, for Buffalo, if you don't care about those first-round picks, you might need to give up 2 or 3 of them to reconnect somebody with an old coordinator and Josh Allen. I mean, who doesn't want to play with Josh Allen? I think you do it. I think you just say, heck with the picks. You try to bring a guy in. They are a wide receiver 1 away from getting to the Super Bowl, and that's just my most humble opinion. You got 2 very good tight ends, a very good running back duo with Cooks and the guys he has behind them. Khalil Shakir, honestly, has gained a lot of respect, at least for me this year, with his way to further elevate his game. But you're not getting there with him as a 1. You bring Jefferson into that team, I think that team does finally get over the hump.
May I present you Nico Harrison in a Luka Doncic jersey? No, yeah, I agree with a lot of that. Look, Justin Jefferson, we've said this a lot. 2 things that can make the Bills get from where they are now, where it's been consistent playoff disappointment after playoff disappointment, especially this year, because while the Bills throughout the regular season and just seeding wise, it was not their best season. Yeah. It didn't feel like their year. From the path they had, it felt like their year, right? They had to go through Trevor Lawrence, Bo Nix, and it would have been Drake May, as opposed to a Burrow or a Lamar or Mahomes. As we all know, we've said that so many times without all three of those guys, specifically Lamar and Mahomes, because Burrow's now been out a couple years. Lamar and Mahomes being the two big, Mahomes being the biggest. That's been the biggest Josh Allen kryptonite when it comes to the playoffs. Really, Mahomes has been a lot of teams' biggest kryptonite in the AFC when it comes to the playoffs outside of this season. Two things the Bills would be able to do is get that number one receiver, and we talk about this a lot. Outside of the quarterback, the two biggest needle-moving positions would be receiver or that elite edge rusher that could just take over a game. Because I talk about it so many times. Bo Nix in that Broncos game had 43 pass attempts. He was clean. He had no pressure all day. Clean pockets, no sacks, all that stuff. They weren't able to get home enough. We've seen that a lot even in the games against the Chiefs over the years. Having that elite pass rusher that can get home to the quarterback. That's why last year, the minute Myles Garrett requested a trade, I was instantly in the boat of go out and do everything you can to get him. Because that can be a guy that in a playoff game against the Chiefs at Arrowhead can just take over and have like 3 sacks and make Mahomes' life miserable and completely change things. Same thing with the number one receiver. Brandon Cooks, Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, Curtis Samuel, McCole Harmon, those guys are not going to cut it. They're not going to cut it. Getting a guy like Justin Jefferson, pairing him, because Justin Jefferson is better than Stephon Diggs. And the things that Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen were able to do together, the potential for Jefferson and Allen is through the roof. Now, there is a little bit of that with Josh Allen where he's actually played better when it's been kind of receiver by committee, because there was a lot of those times with Diggs, and come to find out the relationship between the two of them started to fracture over time, but where he force-feeded it to Diggs a lot. It wasn't until he didn't win his MVP until last year, where it was Mac Hollins and all of these number 2, number 3s acting as number 1s in a way. So there is that, but it's interesting. And maybe that's the process that the Bills take now is with Joe Brady in charge. It's an offensive mind in charge, right? McDermott was defensively. Maybe Brady says enough is enough. We're going out. We're making that big splash trade. Enough of these pickups of Mac Hollins and Josh Palmer and Brandon Cooks and Curtis Samuel and McCole Harmon and Elijah Moore, guys that just aren't very good. We're going to go out there and bring in a legitimate number one who I have ties to, and we're going to go out and show the NFL world that we can go finally get over the top. Maybe that's the approach. So any other thoughts on where things stand with Buffalo? And I guess prediction time. This time next year, will we be getting ready for a Super Bowl that includes the Buffalo Bills?
I think this time next year we're going to be talking about another piece Buffalo needs if they after divisional round loss. I like that. That's not even a bash on Buffalo necessarily. It's just year in and year out, you're seeing the same thing over and over. It's like I'm watching a loop. I'm tied to a chair, watching a loop of the same things happening. Yeah, I can't trust Buffalo until they finally get over the hump.
Yeah, I agree with you. I can't trust Buffalo until I see it.
Yeah.
I like the way you actually worded that. This time next year, we'll be talking about the Bills trying to find another piece. Hopefully it's not the coach, I guess, because if they're trying to find the coach, that probably means they missed the playoffs.
Yeah.
There is a chance that this completely flames out because he's never coached before. Like, there's a chance that they go out to this year and win 8 games. Now, it's going to be tough to do that because Josh Allen can carry. There's a quarterback out there that can carry a bad coach or a coach that's overwhelmed. It would be Josh Allen. I mean, he could practically just run the offense by himself, but there's a chance it completely flames out on him. I would be very curious if they would to go in a hypothetical world, like 7 wins this year or next year. Like, what happens? Do they blow? Like, what happens? There's no way you bring Brady back. Do you then blow it up? And then you're in a real tough spot because then you miss the playoffs. If the roster is still where it's at from a receiving perspective, really tricky spot then. Because then the whole McDermott thing, it's like, all right, who's going to be able to get it? You fire McDermott, you miss the playoffs. Who's the problem then?
Yeah, Mike Tomlin. You know? Mike Tomlin comes back, coaches that team. I don't think he's done. I don't think he
Tomlin's a
does.
Jet. Tomlin's got to be a Jet. It's got to be. Got to happen. So maybe the Bills tank a year later from now. We were on the tank for Tomlin train. March for Arch, tank for Tomlin, baby. 3 wins. I could smell the 3 wins. It's gonna be fantastic. All right. Speaking of the tank for Tomlin, March for Arch, we had another change in the NFL world. Bills keep their GM, fire the coach. Vikings do the opposite. Fire the GM. Kevin O'Connell, never really on the hot seat. They keep him around. No surprise there. But they do fire the general manager. And Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, I believe. Adofo-Mensah. If you want to, the first name, we could leave that out, whatever. For, difficult name for a lot of people, obviously, to pronounce. Not an easy one. But he's out as GM of the Minnesota Vikings after 4 seasons. And I'll be honest with you, the timing of this screams that this has a lot to do with the Sam Darnold decision that they made a year ago, where they elected to move on from Sam Darnold and keep J.J. McCarthy. Or I shouldn't say keep J.J. McCarthy, but start J.J. McCarthy, put all of their eggs in the J.J. McCarthy basket, basically told Darnold, there's the door. You're out after winning 14 games, but the way the season ended, they had that loss to the Lions to lose the NFC North, and the 1 seed, they ended up losing in the playoff game to the Rams. Darnold didn't play well. They looked at those last 2 games and said, that's it. They ship him off to Seattle. Seattle's now 1 win away from being Super Bowl champions, and the Minnesota Vikings just saw their, I don't know if I want to say their promising they're young, not promising, but their young quarterback, who they fully bought into after Sam Darnold throw 12 interceptions, go 9-8, miss the playoffs, and you walk away with a lot of concerns about J.J. McCarthy. So what are your thoughts? Do you feel, to me, this just feels like the Sam Darnold. If Sam Darnold doesn't go on, and maybe this is crazy thinking, but if Sam Darnold goes on and has a bad season this year, Mensah still has a job. But everything that's going on, I think that's where things currently stand, in my opinion.
I mean, you saw the disgust on my face as you started us off. I just looking back into last year, what I don't understand. This is a guy that won 14 games for your organization. This is a guy that completely just resurged, and what was it, 33 touchdowns, 35 touchdowns, whatever the case was.
Last year?
Last season with Minnesota.
Yeah, he actually had better numbers last season than this season. That's the crazy part. He had 35 touchdowns, not to cut you off, 12 picks last year, 4,300 yards. This year, he's got 25 touchdowns, 14 picks, 4,048 yards. He had 300 more yards, 10 more touchdowns, and 2 less interceptions last season with Minnesota. He actually had a better year statistically. Now, this year's getting more attention because of the Super Bowl run. And obviously, he's been much better in the playoffs because, let's call a spade a spade, Darnold was a disaster in those final 2 games last year. That playoff game, he looked like young Sam Darnold. It was a mess. But, yeah, no, it's spot on. You can go back to what you were saying.
Well, thank you for bringing up this, just the official stats from last year, because as good as he played last year, he had 2 bad games.
Yep.
And I understand the timing of it. You played so well all year, and then you get to the 2 most important games, and you look horrible. I understand that causes some concern, but you move on from the guy that won 14 games for your organization, when the year before that, you won 7 games after the whole Kirk Cousins blender thing. And the year before that, you won 13 games thanks to Kirk Cousins, and you still didn't win a playoff game. So this guy coming to your organization, completely resurges it. You look good. And this is a team in last year with Darnold in Minnesota. We thought they maybe won 7 to 8 games. And they completely exceeded that expectation. And you get rid of him for a quarterback that wasn't good in college? Are we serious? It's just no way. And it starts with the GM. That's why we're having this conversation now. There's no way you looked at J.J. McCarthy at Michigan and said, that guy can be our franchise quarterback. It's just insane. So if this is the curse of Minnesota, whatever you want to call it, for the whole letting Sam Darnold walk to keep 9, they deserve it and everything else to come with them. because you can really argue offensively, and not even argue it. I mean, the numbers show it. Offensively, Sam Darnold had more weapons and more talent last year with Minnesota than he had this year with Seattle. Seattle just has a heck of a defense, a great coaching staff. Minnesota has a good coaching staff as well, but a great coaching staff that allowed Darnold to kind of take a step back. He doesn't have to be super Darnold anymore. Take a step back, trusting his guys, trusting the coaching staff, trusting the defense, and look where we're at right now. And we're talking about them potentially winning the Super Bowl. But you let him walk as good as he played last year, and you're still rebuilding with J.J. McCarthy. I mean, just tie it back to Buffalo. And if I'm Justin Jefferson, please get me out of here ASAP.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, you saw Justin Jefferson's numbers take a huge plummet this season because he was playing with 9. I giggle every time I hear that. I'm sorry. I gotta stop. Nah, dude, the 9. It's unbelievable that picture of J.J. McCarthy. Out of all of NFL Twitter, that might be the most used image.
That's it.
And they're photoshopping it for everything.
I love it.
9. I saw actually a Jared Stidham Photoshop on of 9 after the AFC title game. Gosh, what a disaster!
Oh, man.
But I think that last part you made a great point. There is no reason why the Minnesota Vikings, if they had kept Sam Darnold, wouldn't be what the Seattle Seahawks are right now. Because you're spot on. Sam Darnold this playoffs has not had to put the team on his back. He hasn't. I know he had the really good game against the Rams, but that San Fran game, that was all the defense and all special teams with the Rashid Shaheed touchdown. He only had to throw the ball 17 times. Kenneth Walker had a big day. They were able to control the game on the ground. Now, he went out there and was awesome against the Rams, 340-plus yards. He had the big 3 touchdowns, right? He was excellent. But Darnold, in a lot of games this year, too, the defense has stepped up in a huge way. There has been a few games where Darnold hasn't had to do a whole lot this season, right? There's been a few games where Darnold has actually struggled, and the Seahawks have found a way to win. I mean, heck, the game he threw 4 interceptions, they lost by 2. They had a chance in that game still because the defense kept them in it. They held the Rams to just 21 points. So there's been a lot of examples of that being the case where there's been some games where Darnold has taken over, but there's also been some games where he hasn't had to do a whole lot, and the defense has done well in the run game. That could have been what the Vikings are because the Vikings defense, very similar to Seattle, is dominant. We all know what Brian Flores is as a defensive coordinator. He's got one of the strongest defenses in the NFL schematically, what he's able to do with the blitzes and the pressure and the disguises that he brings. That's a big reason why the Vikings went 9-8. Just think about that. The Vikings went 9-8 with awful quarterback play. There's no reason with Sam Darnold they couldn't have won 13 to 14 games again and would be right back in this position of having an opportunity in the playoffs to potentially get to a Super Bowl. They based the last season, and I get how bad it looked in those final 2 games. I get that. And there was certainly part of me that wondered if the Sam Darnold magic ran out, right? Certainly part of me wondered that. But you had an opportunity last year. You were 1 game away from being the 1 seed in the NFC. It didn't happen. But they went and saw 16 games of Sam Darnold. Darnold played 18 games as a Minnesota Viking. They used 2 games as their final, I guess, evaluation in whether to keep him or not. 2 games. I mean, it's like thinking about that, it's just so stupid, the process that they actually went through to move on from him. Like, we saw 16 great games of Sam Darnold, and they used 2 games and said he's out. And now look at what he's doing in Seattle. Minnesota with Sam Darnold is in the suit. I will call me crazy, but Minnesota is in Seattle's position right now if Sam Darnold's still the quarterback.
I agree. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Oh, no,
isn't the Rams team that Sam Darnold just shredded that we just saw the same Rams team from last year that made him look awful.
Good point. Good
So
point.
the point in that is it's almost like you're taking the same exact path as last year that you did this year. In some sense, you play a little bit of the same teams. So I bring that up because 1,000% I'm right there with you, and I think you perfectly mentioned the whole defense and the Brian Flores thing. By the way, surprised that he is not getting more calls as head coach. That
I
time in
know.
Miami might have
Ridiculous.
completely messed up things for him.
Yeah, and then
But
the whole like the suing thing. And
yeah,
I'll be the first one to say I wanted him as the Jet coach last year, and I think the Jets would be in a totally different spot if they hired Flores as opposed to the stiff and Aaron Glenn that they have right now.
1,000%.
Sorry,
But it's not like he completely went from, last year, a team where he did have to, wear a cape and he carried them. The defense was actually pretty decent last year. Obviously, Sam Darnold played a lot better last year, but this year, I think Sam Darnold has realized, and I think he would have realized that with Minnesota if he stayed with the defense. I think Sam Darnold, and this is, stay with me, this is going to kind of sound confusing. Sam Darnold is a game manager that can turn the switch on and put on a cape at any time. And we've seen it. And you mentioned it perfectly. That first game against the Niners, 1 touchdown pass, he didn't have to do much. He just knew, hey, let me get some drives going. Let me get the offense flowing. Let me trust the defense because the defense got us. That Rams game is very similar to when we saw them the second time in the overtime game. Flip the switch, and Sam Darnold was a completely different Sam Darnold. That was a Sam Darnold that the expectations were for him coming into the league. That's the Sam Darnold we started to get. So if you're the Vikings, I mean, you're looking at this playoff run. You're looking at Sam Darnold's resurgence, which started in Minnesota, by the way, in your building. I won't let Vikings fans forget that. Which started with you last year. You're looking at this Sam Darnold, and you're like, dang, why couldn't we have this? It's because you decided to keep J.J. McCarthy. And now you are you're about to blow it up. I think you have to blow it up if you're Minnesota.
Yeah, and it's very interesting what happens here in the near future, right? We mentioned the whole J.J. McCarthy or the Justin Jefferson. I was about to call him J.J. Jefferson. Justin Jefferson, Jay Jettas, whatever you want to call him. What happens next with him now? You do wonder if there's part of him that says, I want the heck out of here because J.J. McCarthy's not any good. There's a chance if the wheels really fall off this year, you're looking at an entire revamping of the franchise from a coaching perspective too, potentially Kevin O'Connell gone. And I will put this out there, and I don't want to relate everything back to the Jets because I do want to get into the Darnold Jet conversation for a second and the whole Darnold conversation just in general. I could see a world where Kevin O'Connell is the Jets coach next year, and I want to give a brief reason why. Because Kevin O'Connell and Darren Muji were college roommates, very close, have continued to remain close. Darren Muji quietly has stockpiled 5 first-round picks, right? When people look at the Jets organization, they look at Aaron Glenn as being the big issue. Darren Muji, a lot of people have actually given him flowers for the return he got on the Sauce trade, the Quinnen trade, the way they did the deadline. Now, I would fire both of them at the end of the year, and I think there is a good chance they both do get fired. But in the world where where Muji basically says, hey, I got you 3 first-round picks in this draft, Muji also never hired Glenn. Glenn was hired first. So there's a world where Muji gets Woody to keep him and gives him, hey, 3 first-round picks, Archman, like we got the number 1 overall pick, we got Manning, I got you these picks, I never hired Glenn, let me hire my coach. If Kevin O'Connell gets fired, I could see a world where they team back up. They're close. They were college roommates together. So that's down the road. I'd still take Tomlin over Kevin O'Connell, but who knows, right? This is conversations for this time next year. Either way, there's a world where if this thing doesn't work out this year, because I'm sure Kevin O'Connell had a say on this too about wanting J.J. McCarthy and feeling that he could develop J.J. McCarthy and turn J.J. McCarthy into something. And another thing about this whole Sam Darnold situation that just makes everything look even worse is even if they wanted to keep J.J. McCarthy and wanted to see him play eventually, or whatever they view J.J. McCarthy as, keeping Darnold still would have been the best case scenario because even in the event where Darnold and the wheels really did fall off this season and it was just a 1-year thing and the last 2 games were more of who he actually is, then you just put you You keep J.J. McCarthy out. You put J.J. McCarthy in. You get rid of Darnold. You look at the Darnold contract in Seattle. We talked about this when it was originally signed. It was essentially a one-year deal because it doesn't kick in the contract until next season, and then they can get out of it in 2027. He's still getting paid his normal salary now. Next year is when the salary and the contract, the $100 million over 3 years, actually kicks in. Like, it essentially was a one-year deal when you factor in money. He's there for 2 years. They could get out of it after 27. Now, obviously, Seattle, there's no reason to get out of it in 2 years. But that's the point I'm trying to make. If Minnesota had a similar deal like that and Darnold failed this year, they could have moved on. They could have structured the contract in that way. And there's also this element. If Darnold continued this success and had another great year this year, and J.J. McCarthy was sitting behind Sam Darnold and learning from Kevin O'Connell, you think there would be a ton of teams probably calling the Vikings about a potential J.J. McCarthy trade to say, hey, this guy has now he tore his ACL last year, so a little bit different, but he sat the first 2 years of his NFL career. People could joke about Sam Darnold, but he's playing like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL over the last 2 seasons. So you would have the take of he sat behind one of the best quarterbacks who has thrown, 50-plus touchdowns the last 2 years, and he's learning from Kevin O'Connell. And you've seen the Sam Darnold resurgence from Kevin O'Connell. J.J. McCarthy's been in that building every day. You could get something for him then. You could trade him away. You have Darnold, deal McCarthy, and get a decent return for him. There's a team that would be willing to take that chance on him. And now you can't do that. Now, do you trade J.J. McCarthy now? Maybe you do. But who's the replacement? And look, there would still be some teams that I think take a chance on J.J. McCarthy because he's essentially only played 1 year. But that's another element to this, that Minnesota could have went through that process.
Yeah, and I'm glad you bring that up. We saw it with Jimmy G. And even though it necessarily didn't work out too great, but it's just the part of it that you have the possibility to do that. And back to Sam Darnold, I'm glad you bring up the whole contract thing because now you're Minnesota and you're looking at everything that's going on. Now you're second to last in cap space. I think you're like negative $48 million in cap space, if I'm correct. And you have no quarterback. And your wide receiver one potentially is going to want out. You are in no man's land. And, I guess you can't really necessarily say wasting a prime for a coach. But it seems like they're wasting Kevin O'Connell's glory days because that is a heck of a coach, 100%. I think he is very close to that category of if he were to get fired, a lot of teams are going to want him. He's a very attractive name when it comes to coaching. And just of what he's done in Minnesota with Kirk, with Sam Darnold, he's a great coach. But now you're looking at Minnesota where the contract would not have taken place quite yet. You have no money to get free agents. Nobody who wants to go to Minnesota right now for what? Like you're not guaranteed anything to win. Mm-hmm. And on top of just the free agents thing, it's also not like you're putting together great draft classes where you got these young guys that are starting to put it together and you maybe need a piece here and there. Sam Darnold was that piece though, but a piece here and there to elevate that team. Your draft classes suck. If you look at the last 4 draft classes, I mean, the only hit is Jordan Addison, who might be in prison, in the next few years because he can't stay out of trouble.
Yeah, and he can't stay on the field either, even when he's not in trouble. Well, because he was suspended and he missed a couple games last year too. So, you're spot on with not to cut you off, but yeah.
No, just Jordan Addison is Jalen Naylor, which was a late draft pick, which you found a gem in, if you ask me. He's solidified himself as a very solid, wide receiver 3, can play wide receiver 2 when needed. Will Riker, which is your kicker, and Dallas Turner. That is the only 4 of the last 4 drafts that you have put together that has somewhat panned out. And Jordan Addison might not be on the team because he's going to be suspended 17 games comes next year. So, I mean, you can't draft. Free agents don't want to go there. You're dead in cap space, and you have no quarterback. I mean, it has been complete malpractice for what Minnesota has done. And it's kind of all started with Sam Darnold no longer being a part of that organization.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the cap space. And look, cap space can always be adjusted, and they're actually raising up the salary cap again. Teams can always, configure their way. I mean, the Saints have been over the cap for, I feel like, ever since cap has been invented. Yeah. Really. It feels like the entire the entirety of their existence, they've been over the cap, and yet they have found ways all throughout a lot of those years to compete. Now they're not competing anymore, but still, 40 million over. They're 31st in the NFL in cap space. The only team that is worse is the Chiefs, who are at 54 million over, and the Chiefs got a lot of tough decisions to make. That's been a lot of their questions, is they don't have much cap space, and they've got a lot of guys that are up for contracts, and they're going to have to make a lot of tough decisions. But yeah, I'm glad you brought up a lot of those names and a lot of the players that they have drafted and some of the draft classes and the shortcomings of some of those players in some of those draft classes, especially when you look at these middle rounds. I mean, you invested the 10th overall pick in J.J. McCarthy. You look at some of these late round picks, they haven't been pretty, other than, like you said, Jalen Naylor, who was 6th round in 2022 out of Michigan State. Will Riker, who was, the kicker, but we're really grasping at the straws, taking a look at the kicker when you don't have a quarterback, so it's heck, even 2022, Lewis Seen, who was their first round pick.
First overall. Yep.
Yeah, he was.
Well, he's in the UFL now. I think he's in the UFL, if I'm correct.
Yeah. I believe the Jets actually were going to sign him, and then he backed out, and then I think he signed elsewhere. It was before last season, and now he's I guess in the UFL, wherever he is. Yeah. But they have lit a lot of mid-round picks, a couple first-round picks on fire. Can't do that as a GM, and then the whole Sam Darnold mistake. And that leads me into the one final thing kind of on this subject. To me, if you had to rank, because I'm rooting for Sam Darnold, I'm happy for Sam Darnold. I've always rooted for Sam Darnold since he left the Jets. I thought he got the raw end of the stick here. He said all the right things. He continues to say all the right things. Dan Patrick had him on the other day on his show and asked him about, the Jets and the Panthers and the experiences he had. And Sam Darnold has had many opportunities to take shots at the Jets, many opportunities. And he has never once taken a shot at the Jets, when a lot of former players do, which I respect that a lot out of him. And I'm happy for him. Out of all the teams, though, if you're the Vikings, they've got to be the most low Vikings embarrassed to see Sam Darnold go to the Super Bowl, right? Because he was the one that had success there. Now, Carolina also should be embarrassed too, because they had Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield at once, and they couldn't figure out either of them. But the Vikings saw him throw 35 touchdowns last year, get to the playoffs, and they elected 9. Right?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, Minnesota. You know the old thing. I don't know how much of a Taco Bell eater you are. I know you're like, where are you going with Taco Bell and this? But there's this known thing that Taco Bell loves to take everything off the menu that sells well and does great, and that is essentially what the Minnesota Vikings did. They saw Sam Darnold, everything working out, and said, "Nah, it's all right. We're just gonna get rid of it. We don't need it. It's not good for us. We know it's a hit. We love it. Jersey sales are up there, but no, let's let them walk." And now you're stuck with 9.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And the whole Darnold argument too, I think San Francisco was a big thing for him too. Learning from Shanahan, that was a big step. In Carolina and the Jets, he didn't have that. So I think it's Minnesota as well. That is, and people are like, oh, well, the Jets still haven't found their franchise quarterback. Oh yeah, J.J. McCarthy is the Vikings' franchise quarterback, everybody. Let's clap it up. 12 interceptions for 9 last year. Let's give it up. That meme has been shown more times than he'll probably ever have career touchdowns in the NFL.
9.
Max Brosmer went out there and won a game.
9. I have watched Josh Dobbs go out there and play better football.
Yeah. That offense was better with Josh Dobbs.
It 100% was.
What's funny? And that's where you have a problem. And this is the problem, too, with the J.J. McCarthy moving on and maybe going somewhere else. Every quarterback that has been in that Kevin O'Connell system has ran the offense well. Darnold ran it well. Josh Dobbs ran it well. We all know the success that Kirk Cousins had. They couldn't get over the top, but Kirk Cousins there, even towards the end, before they tore an Achilles, he had the really good season in 2022, I think it was. Yeah. He had the big year. Every quarterback that has walked through those doors other than J.J. McCarthy and I guess Max Brosmer. But the fact that we're comparing J.J. McCarthy and a undrafted free agent that's the problem. Those are the only two. You know?
One last thing before we move on here. So there was a report that apparently Adofo-Mensah, if I'm pronouncing it right, would draft players based off of PFF grades. It all makes sense now because it goes back to there's no way you actually put on film of McCarthy at Michigan. And I know I've said this 14 times today. Let's make it 15. There's no way you put on the film and you said, hey, this guy is great. This guy can do it. He looked at a PFF grade of McCarthy over the season because remember, he didn't have to throw the ball too much. He had Blake Corum in the backfield. And I can't remember who the other back was, but the other back was also pretty good.
They also had Donovan Edwards.
Yes, Donovan Edwards and Blake Corum as your two backs,
and
where
then,
you didn't have to throw the ball.
Yeah, well, yeah, and then he did have the good receiver too. I forget his name. But yeah, Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards. Donovan Edwards was supposed to be after that season. Good to bring 15. That up. Yeah, that was Donovan Edwards when he was good. That was before the Donovan Edwards fall off. That was Donovan Edwards at his best, got the college football cover, and then he was playing in preseason games with the Jets this year. And that's all you need to know about his fall off. But yeah, Donovan Edwards and Blake Corum. And the other receiver, I forget his name. He's with Pittsburgh. Roman
Wilson. Yeah, there we go.
Roman Wilson. Yeah, Roman Wilson. I knew it was Rome. I was gonna say Rome Odunze, but I'm like, that's not. Roman Wilson. He was pretty good. Yeah. But but he had he probably the best running back room in college football, arguably.
Number one defense while he was there in Michigan. Number one offensive line, especially in run blocking. Your two running backs were both top 10 in votes for. I can't remember. Was it the Doak Campbell? Was that the best running back? I can't remember the name of it right now. The best running back award in college football. Two of your backs. Of course, your PFF grade is great. When you're 13 for 14, 154 yards, and 2 touchdowns every game, it's going to look like you're pretty good. And if that is the true report that he drafted off of PFF grades, that says a lot about what's going on in that organization.
And I believe that with Mason Graham he was also part of that team.
Mason Graham
defensively.
Was
there. They had Will Johnson, I believe, too.
Yeah,
the corner.
Yeah,
now
I believe Sainer still. I think he might have also been there at a point. I could be wrong, but Will Johnson
in Washington now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Will Johnson. Yes.
Yeah.
He's a name that you didn't really hear much about this year in Arizona.
Yeah,
Will Johnson.
He had a quiet year. He had some flashes, some good games.
He only played 12 games.
Yeah.
And I don't want to act like that number guy. I'll be honest, I barely saw any Will Johnson this season in Arizona. Arizona's very irrelevant. Very irrelevant.
Fred Warner said that on the pod.
The numbers aren't the numbers aren't bad for 12 games. I mean, he had 10 pass breakups in 12 games. That's not actually bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I believe, that defense, they shut Penix down in that game.
Yeah. Penix
Will Johnson, I think, actually had a pick in that game.
He did.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they smoked, or was that the year before?
The Bama year was the year they won. I can't remember who they went through. No, that might have been the TCU.
The TCU year they lost, I thought, in the national. Didn't they lose the national championship a year before? Hold on.
I can't remember who.
Am I lost?
Going back. Let's see.
I thought they did. No, they didn't. No, they lost. Who did they? They beat TCU in the Rose Bowl, I believe. Was it?
The year they won the
no, they beat Alabama.
Bama, and then smoked Washington.
Yeah, they smoked Washington. Now, who smoked TCU during the Duggan year?
Was that 22?
Was that Washington or Georgia? No, I thought Georgia smoked them. No, they lost the national championship. Yeah, that's it. They
They beat Michigan 51-45.
Yeah, in the Fiesta Bowl.
Yes.
Yes, and then they got smoked. What was it, like 45-3 or something against Georgia?
65-7.
Oh my God, they got destroyed.
Yeah, that was the Max Duggan. I believe Quentin Johnson.
Right.
That's when we all thought Quentin Johnson was the next big thing. Yeah,
that's what I was thinking about. They didn't lose the national championship. They lost the college football playoff semifinal to TCU, and then the next year they won the national championship under Harbaugh.
There is a name I forgot. That was part of
that
one of those
Harbaugh
Michigan
year,
teams.
What, from the Natty team?
From the year before. Ronnie Bell was also part of that team as well.
Oh, yeah.
Another good one. They also had Colston Loveland and Dallas Cowboy legend.
Yes.
Loon Schoonmaker. That was all that Fiesta Bowl year.
And they had Keegan, the offensive guard now for the Cowboys, I think. Trevor Keegan. I think he was one of the O-linemen.
Khalil Mullings was also there as another back. They had three very good backs.
You know, it's funny. That was the year that Harbaugh got suspended. Remember the first four games? And he gave the coaching duties to 4 different coaches.
Yep.
Jesse Minter actually being one of them, who now gets the job in Baltimore. Yeah, that TCU run was something.
It was generational. It was special.
That was the Cinderella run.
It was special.
Max Duggan. Oh, what a guy. Where is he now? He's with the Chargers, right?
Last place he was with the Chargers.
He's in the CFL
that I remember.
now.
From the Chargers
he played
to the CFL. Okay.
Yeah, St. Louis Battlehawks. Now he plays for the Toronto Argonauts.
All right.
Put him on the list of a potential Jet Week 1 starter.
Hey, UFL sometimes works out. I mean, we got a Pro Bowl return to Kevontae Turpin. It's not always a bad thing. 9
will be there soon.
UFL? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's if Toyota tells them no.
Doesn't J.J. McCarthy just feel like a better version of Zach Wilson? Like he feels like an improved Zach Wilson. He's not as bad as Zach Wilson, but he just feels like Zach Wilson, where it's just, I don't know what they saw in college. Well, I know what they saw with Zach in college. They saw the arm talent. They saw the pro day, and they said, yeah, sure, sign him up. Everything else sucked, but they're like, yeah, he's got arm talent. That'll work out. I don't really know what they saw at J.J. McCarthy in Michigan. And I was actually higher on J.J. McCarthy going into this year than most because of Kevin O'Connell. I thought the Kevin O'Connell effect, he'd be okay, but I'm wrong.
Well, I guess when you were spending every week playing Abilene Christian, Purdue, and, who else?
Indiana when they were bad.
Yeah, Indiana, and then the
Rutgers.
Girls flag football champions every week, and then you play Ohio State once and Penn State, then people look at you a little differently, I guess, but it's not working out for them.
Yeah. You know what's funny? I was just looking. That secondary in Arizona is actually not bad.
They have names.
Like, they've got some pieces. Yeah, like they've got Will Johnson, who, look, maybe I'll watch some more Will Johnson after this. But in 12 games, he had 10 pass breakups. That's solid. Buda Baker, Max Melton's solid. Like, they're actually not.
They have some names.
Yeah, they do have some names. They're not, like, terrible. They got Sean Murphy Bunting back there, too.
Yeah.
The veteran. Yeah, like, they're not bad in the secondary. Their defensive line is terrible.
Yeah, that's the issue.
They don't get
the
any
front
pressure.
Seven is horrible.
Yeah, I mean, they got Calais Campbell playing in the Big 26. I mean, what are we doing? It's a joke. And then they got, like, Josh Sweat he actually had a solid year.
Yeah.
It's not bad. I mean, Josh Sweat's pretty, Dalvin Tomlinson's not very, he's more of your run stuffer.
Yeah.
Giants legend, Dalvin Tomlinson. Arizona's not, they got to get a quarterback.
Yeah.
And they got to get some help on offense. Michael Wilson had a solid season. You need to get more out of Marv.
Get James Conner back, who's been
Yes, get
very,
James Conner
very
back. Trey
good.
McBride. It's actually not. Maybe it's crazy. It's not crazy to think that Arizona can be like decent with better quarterback play.
Oh,
Healthy quarterback. Like
they
they've got
have
some pieces. Like, yeah, you get James Conner back. You get a quarterback that can actually mesh with Marvin Harrison Jr., which shouldn't be difficult, but for whatever reason, it was hard for Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
You've got Michael Wilson, who played like a 1 in
Yeah.
in the latter stages of the season, but realistically he's a 2. Trey McBride's arguably the best tight end in the NFL.
Yeah.
Top 3 at least. I mean, he led, I think, tight ends in yards.
Mm-hmm.
The defensively, they've got some pieces in the secondary. Some young pieces too, like Max Mellon's only a couple years in. Will Johnson was a rookie. Budda Baker's still playing at a high level. So yeah, I mean, Arizona's, get the right coach. Although I don't think they've hired a coach yet.
I don't think either.
Clint
I don't
Kubiak's
know.
on their radar.
Yeah.
You get Clint Kubiak with a good quarterback, that's intriguing. In that offense with Marvin Harrison Jr., that's intriguing. It's just and that's the problem with all these quarterback needy teams. Who's that quarterback going to be? Because the draft this year stinks. And all the bridge options are terrible. And like Burrow's not getting traded. Like if Burrow is getting, maybe, I don't know. I mean, the offseason could take many twists and turns, but for a lot of these teams, you're looking at the Brissetts of the world, the Mariotas, very uninspiring names. But somebody like a Kubiak could take a chance on a Nussmeier or a Drew Aller and get something out of him. Yeah. Who knows? Anyway, well, we've hit the hour mark here, went a little bit off track. Any other thoughts? Todd Monken to Cleveland. He gets to work with a Pro Bowl quarterback. I'll be honest. I don't love it either. I actually kind of feel bad for Todd Monken because, and I'll tell you what, I actually think Todd Monken could be a decent coach in the NFL, just not the situation he's in. Not in Cleveland.
Not in Cleveland. And it's no roster, no weapons.
No Pro Bowl quarterback.
Pro Bowl quarterback. What happens at the game I love? What happens at the game I love?
You're not excited to watch flag football Pro Bowl?
Everyone in the league had to have said no for Shador to get the call. Shador and Joe Flacco is who I'm at to watch Tuesday at 8 p.m. Play flag football, but no roster, no weapons, no QB. I think they're 4th to last in cap. And again, I know that's one of the things you said it perfectly. It can be switched around, messed with. But right now, if you're a free agent, why am I going to Cleveland? What do I want to do? What is there to do in Cleveland? It's not good. It's not good for them.
Yeah, and the coaching search was a mess. Like you hear a lot of what coming out about the coaching search. It wasn't good about a lot of the names they didn't want. And then they kind of went behind Jim Schwartz's back. Like it sounded like it should have been Jim Schwartz's team, and they kind of at the last second shifted to Todd Monken. I think I think Monken would be a very good hire for the Bills. To me, he's a guy that one of two things for Todd Monken. Either a team with like an intriguing rookie quarterback or a team with a quarterback already in place, because he kind of took that over in Baltimore as the OC with Lamar, and they took that offense to another level, So I think part of that too is with like Monken with Allen would be very intriguing. Monken with Shador, it just doesn't move the needle for me. He's like Monken's been around for a very long time. He doesn't seem like that innovative offensive mind that seems like that guy that's going to like Dart and Monken as the OC. Very intriguing.
Yeah.
He just doesn't have a quarterback, and that's tough.
I would have liked the Buffalo move too. I mean, you get very similar situation as far as quarterback in the run game. They have very similar skill sets.
Yeah.
Obviously, James Cook, not a Derrick Henry necessarily, but probably more versatile because of his factor as a pass catcher. But you get two very good backs who are very well in terms of running the ball and just completely hurting defenses. I think it would have been a great fit there. The only thing is, obviously, we talked about it earlier. You take that step back from the receiving core that you had in Baltimore to what you would have had in Buffalo, but you can build pieces. I mean, he's one of those guys I necessarily think in Buffalo, just in general, where one of my things I love to say is coaches and organizations become what's attractive for free agents. If you're
Yeah.
someone that's looking at Buffalo, why would you not want to play for a guy that you can look at his resume and the Buffalo team that you know is right on the doorstep of a Super Bowl? You can get guys to come play for you. I would have liked
Yeah.
that better than Cleveland.
Yeah. Monken to me just screams 2 years and out.
Yeah.
Like it to me, I think this is going to be, they're going to stink this year. They're going to go high pick next year. They'll draft a quarterback. They won't be very good. He'll get fired. And then they'll bring somebody else in for that young quarterback. They got nobody on that roster. The Deshaun Watson contract's still killing them. The GM doesn't seem like he's any good in Andrew or Barry. And the owner is a mess, you know. I'm just kind of surprised that it's, I guess it's one of 32, right? That's the old saying, but I'm surprised Monken wanted to put his head coaching, all these eggs in one basket, because Monken has been in a lot of head coaching interviews over the last couple of years. Like, he's been in a lot of cycles. I don't know if the Jets ever interviewed him, but last year, but he's been around a lot. Like the last couple of years, every year he's in the mix for a lot of teams. Never gets the job. Now he gets the job in Cleveland. I just don't love it. Jim Schwartz sounded more like that type of coach that they would hire. He was already there as the DC. The defense has been excellent. He's already been a head coach before. So if it doesn't work out, it's not really much of a surprise. But yeah, I don't know. Anyway, any other thoughts? Dable to Tennessee as the OC, which is interesting with Cam Ward. Bill Belichick not in the Hall of Fame.
Dable to Tennessee. Dable to Tennessee, I think I like. That's going to be intriguing. I mean, obviously they need pieces bad. They need weapons. You have some young talent in DK and Alec Iamano, or however you pronounce his name. But you got some young weapons in that. Tony Pollard. Pollard's weird. He has to get utilized correctly. I just don't think he does. But I think we've seen enough from Cam Ward this year. I know they didn't look great. Obviously, the record indicates that. But towards the end of that year, middle to the end, you start to see some Cam Ward, very Miami-like Cam Ward. You're like, hey, this guy can go win some games with the right amount of talent. He kept him in a lot of games. So I think Dable kind of getting similar to that dart aspect of it, a young quarterback with a high upside. I like it. It's just Robert Saleh. Here we go again.
Yeah, the Saleh thing's gonna be interesting. He is calling plays now, which I guess is good, but yeah, it's interesting with Robert Saleh. I don't love. I don't. It's gonna be very interesting. I think there's a chance he succeeds there. They got a lot of work to do on that roster, though. Like they got the quarterback. I think Cam Ward's intriguing. I think Cam Ward can be pretty good, but the rest of the roster is it needs some work. You mentioned I.E. Manor. What is it? It's DK.
Yeah, Chimere, DK, something.
DK.
Yeah,
but that's it. Pollard's okay. Defensively, they should be good defensively with Saleh. Offensively, they've got a lot of work to do, and they got to protect Cam Ward.
Yeah.
Belichick, he should be a Hall of Famer.
He should have been first ballot. I don't know the decision making there. Talk to this guy I work with, big Vikings fan, big football guy, older guy. He thinks, and when I looked at it from this angle, like maybe you're right. He thinks the whole UNC thing has to play some part of why Belichick didn't get in. And I would like to say, I think I agree.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And I was actually talking to somebody about this the other day. Similar conversation about why he didn't get in, and we both brought up the UNC thing. Also, the end in New England was rough. The post Brady era for Belichick was rough. Not saying that it was all Brady, but to see Brady leave, win a Super Bowl, and Belichick go to the playoffs once and never win another playoff game.
Yeah.
Like that to me, I think hurt his case. I know some people have brought up the whole Spygate and the deflate thing and all that stuff, like to that stuff, cheating wise in terms of some of those things that maybe. But I don't know. Like if that's the case, then Brady wouldn't be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
You know, because he was a part of that too, and Brady's going to be. So, you know, there's plenty of been cheating allegations throughout the years, and teams are. I don't think they usually hold that against you. The UNC thing has really put Belichick in a bad light, though.
Yeah.
Like the Bill Belichick, if Bill Belichick, and I guess he doesn't, if he really cared about his legacy, I guess he would not. He would quit immediately because this is really hurting his legacy with just in general. Nobody right now is talking about Bill Belichick and his time with New England, and I feel like for a while now, that's all people are going to talk about is what's happening with UNC. Because really, you think about it, post Brady, he never made. It was a disaster in the end there in New England. Then he goes to UNC, and it's been a mess. You know, it's like post Brady has been awful. It's been nothing but downhill.
I don't know what made him take over one of the worst teams in the ACC and think it would work out, or maybe that's what he thought. You look at the rest of the ACC, hey, it's Clemson, it's SMU, and everybody else. But when you look as bad as you did with UNC, I mean, I agree with you. For his legacy, he has to quit.
You think there's he's never back in the NFL, right?
No.
I don't think so either.
Mm-hmm.
Every year he's going to be brought up in coaching cycles. I don't think he'll ever get another job. Yeah. And he's not the type of personality to take like a DC job.
Yeah, no.
So he should have just retired after the Patriots or taken another NFL job.
Yeah.
It would, if I was him, I'd rather fail at the NFL level than whatever the heck's going on with UNC. But anyway, any closing thoughts?
No, that is all. We will see you guys next week for Super Bowl Sunday. Early Super Bowl prediction. Who do you got?
To be honest, I'm still actually kind of split. I usually know by now, but over the last couple of days, there's a part of me that thinks New England's actually going to win. Seattle's the better team. Seattle should win. But I don't know, there's just this weird part of me that like New England, and I don't know if it's just the nostalgic of it, like all these years, New England would always win, right? Every year we thought during the Brady era that it was over. Every year we thought, even with the Chiefs recently, it's always like, oh, well, maybe this team could beat it. Maybe they could finally be dethroned. Everybody's kind of counting New England out and saying, oh, Seattle win, and somehow New England might come out. So I'll know definitely next week. But honestly, right now I'm split. I don't know. There is part of me that's like, thinks the Patriots are going to win, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, it feels like a trap game, not gonna lie. I'm right there with you, so I won't have an official answer until next Saturday or Sunday whenever we shoot the next episode, but now I'm 50-50. It
feels like everybody's counting New England out.
Yeah.
They had the week schedule, all this stuff, and now we're, it feels like they're going to go and win it. And,
Yeah.
And it just feels like they're going to win it too because of the way that this whole thing went. And then people will be, oh, easiest Super Bowl run ever. And,
Yeah.
But I guess we'll see. Yes. Stay tuned, though. Next week, we'll have our official predictions. We'll break down the game, break down all angles of the game, get into some other NFL news. And, get ready for Super Bowl Sunday. So looking forward to that next week. So stay tuned. And until then, enjoy your Sunday. Find something to watch. And get ready for one more game next weekend. And talk to you then.